Hey guys, Artisan Yumi here. Thanks for tuning in. I'm ready to give you that old razzle dazzle. So I apologize in advance if I kind of start trailing off. Today's one of those days where I just can't get the words, to come to me for what it is I'm trying to say. I've probably tried recording this a couple of times now, and it's just like a little bit frustrating. So, in the last video, I talked about my experience as an artist and my journey and ultimately everything I did that led me to where I am right now. One important factor I forgot to add in, though, was basically my experiences with making sales as an artist. That's pretty important for any artist's career because when they make something, whatever it is that they made can potentially become a sale. And I think a lot of people who aren't artists tend to forget that. They forget that, we're people. Essentially, it's a business. It's not just a hobby for us. Commissions are pretty important, not just because, you're helping an artist out and you're giving them money to support them and things like that, but commissioning an artist, it boosts their mood. It's technically a small business that you're paying into, and you're not just helping that artist get money, of course, but also give them an experience that they can put towards their career and put towards their future. So when I was starting out, I didn't really know where to begin. I followed some other artists' steps, I guess you could say, for how they approached commissions. And usually, you draw something up. This is how most artists do it right now, especially like on Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter. Essentially, they'll draw a price sheet and examples of their style, and they'll say, hey, just pick and choose which one you want, and then that will help create your order. I actually altered my very first commissions price sheet to look just like that. Essentially, it didn't work out though because, people's styles change, and mine especially changed just with the technology I had and, the upgrade of my skills and things like that. I worked hard and my style changed, and therefore so did my prices. So, I'll show a little bit of an example of my different price sheets that you guys can see. But when I upgraded it again, I kind of had a lot of different art examples on there that kind of showed off, an onlooker what it is I do. And that one worked pretty well. And then now I actually have my commissions price sheet on my website. And it looks kind of like this. The very first thing is it tells you the directions. 1, build your order. 2, provide reference photos. 3, when do you need it by, a date. And 4, just kind of the idea of how payment works. Then below is kind of like a step-by-step for what it is you want to add in your commissions, as well as just like some background behind how I came to the conclusion of pricing you that way, as well as what it is I'm doing once you pay me, And then below, I just have a few examples. So, in my opinion, pretty fancy. Yours doesn't have to be fancy if you're not sure. Maybe you're a young budding artist and you yourself would like to receive commissions. You could totally start off with the first one that I did, or you can... Some people have a Google Docs that they just link their clients. I definitely would recommend being professional. Even if you're not sure your art is going to make it, or you think your art is not good enough to sell, you need to at least fake the confidence in order to sell that item, to sell your service, in other words. And if I learn anything from any of my customer service jobs, fake it till you make it. So with that being said, maybe those who are listening and watching aren't budding artists. Maybe you're just a general viewer. You're probably asking, why should I buy art when I could just get that photographed? Or buy something that's like a poster at the store, go out and buy it instead of getting it custom made. Well, believe it or not, there was once a time when that was actually the norm. You would go out and get it made, and it would definitely cost a lot of money. So it was good for those artists back then. But in the long run, whatever it was that they were commissioned to do ended up becoming the record in history of that era. I'm essentially talking about the Renaissance. So even though currently, modern day, we rely heavily on technology, I think it's really important to still try to give back to the community and find those people who take the time and the effort to make something that's handmade, and that's not really easy to do. And even myself as an artist, even though I myself can draw something and paint something, I'll still go out of my way to find other artists to commission, just because I know how important it is to help them out and, throw them a bone. Anyway, so this is the point of the video where I start telling you about some of the experiences I've had with doing commissions. First off, let's talk about other people's commissions. I mentioned earlier in the video that there were some artists that I have seen in the past who sort of overcharged for something they did. And when you see those sort of artists, you should still be supportive no matter what, but maybe try to tell them, like, hey, how did you come to that conclusion? Because, believe it or not, they themselves might also be first-timers at getting commissions. And, however they came to their price range, telling them that their art might be too high for others to afford could give them a better sense of direction of how much they should be pricing. So, that's a little nudge. And one example I can think of, I had a friend who does digital art. Their digital art is good, but when they made their commissions, it didn't make sense for them to charge a higher price on a certain style when it looks no different from another style. So their sketch work looked no different than their line work. There was nothing really different about it, but they still charged $10 more. But something like that not only shows that you're sort of a rookie, but to others it looks kind of unprofessional, and if you're not careful, certain customers and clients might try to use that against you if they're unhappy with their work in order to get a full refund. And that's the last thing you want, is giving somebody else money when you're trying to receive it. You really have to be careful too as a budding artist. If you're charging your work and it's too high and your skills aren't really there yet to be at that level of the price, you might be labeled as a delusional artist. Delusional artist is actually a subreddit dedicated to people who post artists who think their work is good, but it's not really that good. And you need to have a sort of humble beginnings when it comes to deciding you want to sell art. If you're still like colored pencil beginner level, you're like in middle school or something, then it's a little bit forgiving. But there is artists out there who are like 30 years old who said, hey, I could pick up a pen and paper and draw something, and it's, for lack of a better word, Squidward level. It just looks bad. It's bad for your reputation, and it might even discourage you from getting any commissions, because people are going to see that and they're going to be like, yeah, this guy's work is amateur. Like, as many like to say, my niece could do better, and that's something you would not want. Anyways, if you're an artist and you do decide to open commissions, definitely post that you're open for commissions on all of your social media accounts, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or wherever. That makes it easier for people to see your profile and know that you're available. As for the charging part, most people charge their customers with PayPal. I think I've done Zelle before, but that's with close friends. I also know some artists charge their clients through Venmo, which is pretty easy. But regardless of how you decide to charge your clients, make sure that you're documenting it, even if you have to email them some sort of invoice just to get that. Because, in a perfect world, it wouldn't happen, but the reality is there is people out there who will commission you for art and then decide not to pay you. For myself, I ask for payment up front. I know some artists will ask for payment where it's, half paid now and then the rest of the full amount later. And that's pretty helpful, but, there'll still be people out there who will grab the image and run. And, art theft, not just, line tracing, but actual art theft, is something that still occurs today. The one I could think of the most that was pretty horrendous was Jeffree Star. Long story short, Jeffree Star used to be friends with Kat Von D, and she had recommended him an artist to do the artwork of his new makeup brand or something like that. And, she hooked up the contact. He complied and, gave as much resources as possible to help the commission through, but then used the artwork without paying the artist friend. And, Kat Von D got back at him like, dude, reply to him. Like, you have to pay him back. And he just blocked her too, I think. It's a long story, but, art theft still happens to this day. I know Hot Topic steals artists' designs from DeviantArt and then puts them on shirts, but obviously doesn't pay them anything to do that. So you gotta be careful in today's world. Heck, even the website Redbubble, which is a website for artists to submit their designs and have them printed on things like phone cases and t-shirts and bags, that's not even a safe platform. There's a chance that you could post your art on there and start to sell very well, but nothing is stopping that website from shutting you down and kicking you out, but then still selling your designs. I know that's happened to a few artists before. Anyways, to kind of wrap up this video, I'm going to talk about a few experiences myself with people who have commissioned me. For the most part, I try to make the process of doing commissions easy, but it can still be really frustrating to try to get the same idea that the person has in mind. For example, sometimes when they say a specific color, I go out of my way to find a color swatch and show them which color they mean. Because when I color something, I'm not going to want to go back and recolor, especially if there's too many details. So maybe that could be something you can incorporate in your own art. Have ready-to-use references, such as poses or face expressions, or even, hairstyles, to show off to your clients, just so that way there's no confusion. Another problem I've had before is I have a specific art style. You guys see it. It's in the icon. It's what I'm drawing right now. And yet, I'll still get people ask me to do anime style. And I don't mind. I really don't. But then I'll ask them, I thought my style was pretty anime. It's not. My art style is anime themed to people who don't watch anime. But when somebody says they want their drawing in anime style, that's when you need to ask, okay, what anime style? Because there's so many different styles. You have the style of Naruto, you have the style of Bleach, you got the style of, I know it's not an anime, Avatar The Last Airbender, It just depends. So having a reference like that too can help. I had one person commission me to do 2 drawings of 2 feminine characters, and originally I was doing it in my style, which was the semi-realistic one, and halfway through they said make it more anime style. And, at this point I'm already coloring, and it's like, okay. And I did it, and, it was a constant back and forth. No, more anime style. No, more anime style. And I had to actually go and find different references on Google and be like, which anime style do you mean? I don't mind, but it does make it difficult, and it does slow down the drawing process when you're almost ready to finish it, and they tell you, no, make it anime style. Which I do gotta say is pretty frustrating in the least. One thing that's not very talked about commissions is that when you decide to open commissions, you might be asked to do, let's say, not safe for work commissions, which is, like sexy time, hentai, lewd art, which is okay. But if your normal art style is doing something that's chibi, and all of a sudden they ask you to do something which is completely opposite to what you're used to, there's a chance that, yes, you might be good at it, but what you really can do will be ignored, and you will be seen more for your commission style, rather than your real style. That's actually something that I have a problem facing now. I realize that I can do really, really pretty aesthetic furry art for the furry fandom. And that's not a problem, but I myself don't consider myself as a furry artist. And granted, if that's what's selling right now, then so be it. But eventually, I would like to sell art that I've already made and not do commissions, which I think is everybody's dream, to be honest. One other example that comes to mind was that I was asked to do art for someone's girlfriend, and it was their persona. And, if they're watching, they're going to know that I'm talking about them, and I'm sorry. But here's what happened with that. The original commissioner kept doing a back and forth on certain things. And it would have been easier if they had just passed me over to the person who this art was going towards. And at one point, I finally made that establishment to talk to them about it, because it wasn't a secret or anything. It wasn't like a secret gift. But then there was a back and forth on the breast size of the character. And I kept getting more and more concerned, because it's like, oh my god, that's huge. It's impossibly huge. And it was a free commission. Eventually I was like, you know what, fuck it. They want it big, I'm gonna make it big. And I made it really big, and then they're like, oh no, that's too big. And I'm just like, I guess, sure, I'll totally fix it. But I mean, it was worth it in the end. Because even though experiences like that can be unpleasant, they definitely do give you the experience to work through it and be prepared the next time something like that happens. Anyway, so that's all I really have for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'm not sure what the next video is going to be about, but go ahead and comment and let me know. Maybe I can give you guys more advice. Bye!